Thank you. May I ask for the opportunity to share screen, please?
You may, Ms. Thomas.
Thanks. All right, so good evening, Accounting Seminar 2020-2021. It is so hard to say that without biting my tongue. So I'll be presenting to you this evening on the topic of volunteerism. And I've only been asked to speak with you for 20 minutes, so hopefully by the time you are ready to start falling asleep on me, I should be done. So in terms of what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to define what exactly is meant by volunteerism. We're going to look at the importance of volunteerism, how it is that volunteerism assists in career advancement, which I imagine is of particular importance for many of us who are looking to enter into the working world roundabout now, where it is that you can volunteer your time, and some recent and emerging trends in volunteerism. So let's start off by discussing what exactly is volunteerism. I'm just going to ask maybe 2 or 3 persons from within the seminar body to share their interpretation of that term, what it is that volunteerism means to them. And feel free to just unmute and go ahead. Not all at once now. No thoughts? No one? Any interpretations of what volunteerism means to you as an individual?
Ms. Thomas?
Yes, Amanda?
2 persons, hands are raised. Sorry, Mr. Perry hand is raised.
Oh, right. Sorry, I'm not seeing yeah, you can go ahead.
Mr. Perry, you may go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Accounting Seminar 2020-2021. I am doing Perry, First Vice President. Good evening, Ms. Thomas, as well. For me, volunteerism is offering your service without expecting anything in return. So you try to help those that are in need, or you see a community project that you have some particular skills that you could utilize, and you offer your service. So it is not something that you get paid to do, but it's just offering some form of humanitarian service. That's just one way of looking at it, in my opinion.
All right, thanks for that, Dwayne, and I'm glad to hear some keywords jumping out there. I'll take one more input. No, so nobody never volunteer. Nobody never give like a free labor. Nobody have no opinion on volunteer, is it? No, man, guys. All right, so I'm going to run with the assumption then that perhaps Mr. Perry is the only one who has done any volunteer work and has an input there, and just move on. All right, so what are some formal definitions of volunteerism? Well, we can define that as the practice of doing work for good causes without being paid. We can also define volunteerism as an expression of people's willingness and capacity to freely help others and improve their society. And we could also say, it's a freely chosen decision to commit a sustained amount of time and effort to helping another person, group, or cause. Now, there are certain keywords or key phrases that jump out from these different definitions. So for instance, good causes. When you volunteer, it is generally for what we would regard as a good cause, or, you know, to bring some sort of benefit to the recipient of the volunteer efforts. Generally, we don't expect to be paid, of course, which is consistent with that idea that we're trying to freely help others. And in doing so, we're hoping to bring some sort of improvement, whether to an individual, whether to an institution, whether to a group of people, whether to the environment, or you know, just our general community and society. And it does require some amount of commitment, you know, particularly when it is that you're looking to do something without any form of compensation or reward. Then there's an understanding that it does require commitment, especially for more onerous tasks. And generally that commitment involves giving of your time and effort. And of course, as mentioned earlier, you're generally helping, you know, a person, a group, a cause, whatever it may be. Now, there are different ways that we see volunteerism efforts manifesting themselves. So, you know, the structure may be different. You may choose to volunteer through an established charity or organization, or it may be quite informal. It could be as simple as you choosing a project that is of interest to you and informally deciding to jump on board. It could also be routine. There are some persons who are what you could sort of call lifetime volunteers. So they're always taking on new projects or constantly committed to specific causes, or it could be quite random. You know, you could hear of a particular initiative going on that strikes your interest and you decide to jump on board. Of course, there are a variety of different causes that you could choose to volunteer your time and effort to. And this list here is by no means exhaustive. Youth development, community development, environment, health, education. The list is really endless. And of course, there are different ways that you can lend your support. In most instances, we're looking at labor, giving of your labor, giving of your time, giving of your efforts. But of course, it is possible in your capacity as a volunteer to lend assistance in the forms of donations of cash or kind. Now, why exactly is volunteerism important? For the volunteer, there are certain benefits. So it is proven to enhance mental and physical health. You know, that whole feel good feeling that you get from giving back certainly does a great deal for mental well-being, the ability to help someone and the euphoria that you get from that, the ability to work with others towards a good cause. It can do a lot for mental upliftment and physical health as well, particularly if it is that the project or task is something that gets you up and moving and keeps you active. It also provides a sense of purpose and belonging. You know, it's always very good to be able to identify to a cause or identify to a particular mission, particularly if there are a group of you who strongly believe in this initiative or, you know, the cause. That can really help to give you that sense of belonging. And sometimes, in fact, a lot of times actually, helping others can help you to identify your purpose and your calling, so to speak. It presents opportunities to try new activities. You know, there are outlets there where you can perhaps take on new ventures, try things that you've not necessarily tried before within the capacity of a volunteer, and get a feel for whether something could really be an activity or venture that you'd want to pursue for an extended period. And of course, in the process of volunteering, you're meeting new people, so you're fostering and building new connections. And one benefit that you can certainly see is improving your professional profile, which of course is especially important for soon-to-be graduates like yourselves. To the beneficiary, you can also see many benefits there. So generally, whomever, and this is in the case of an individual now, whomever it is that is getting the assistance through the volunteer efforts, and a balance of probabilities, they probably needed that assistance a great deal too, which is why they would have been pinpointed to be given aid. And so definitely to get that support or aid in whatever form it is needed, whether it's to, you know, fix up a house, whether it is to build a community center, whether it is to clean up an area, whomever the beneficiary is, most likely would have certainly needed that assistance, and so would be very happy for that aid. And of course, bringing joy and happiness. I mean, we can all relate to the many commercials we see on TV with relief efforts or poverty alleviation efforts, and you know, you see the little children smiling, or you see the elderly smiling. And while we know, of course, that is for commercial purposes, for anyone who has done any volunteering venture, you can appreciate that sometimes just that joy, you know, you can tell that whatever you've done means a lot to the person receiving it. And of course, depending on the circumstances, your efforts can help to improve someone's social, mental, or physical well-being. So certainly beneficial there. And then just generally, volunteerism is also beneficial to society. It helps with improving resource allocation. So, you know, when you over here so with a whole heap of money and you see someone who could potentially benefit from your charity, from your kindness, and you are able to assist, you know, it does have that economic benefit of shifting resources to those who are actually in need and are probably not able to provide for themselves. And in that sense, it also helps to combat certain social ills, so poverty, you know, abuse, pollution, generally some of these long-standing problems that we face as a society. Volunteers in their own ways help to alleviate these problems. It also improves that sense of community when you have a group of people or groups of people being able to come together towards common causes and make a tangible difference within society. That can really stir up a movement at times, and in that sense also encourages further civic engagement by persons out there looking on and thinking, you know, maybe I should do something too, maybe I should contribute to society in some meaningful way as well. Now, we want to talk a bit about volunteerism and career advancement, and how it is that being a volunteer can actually be beneficial to your professional development. Now, I think this one is a little bit of a tricky one, because on the one hand, we like to tell ourselves that being a volunteer or volunteerism is meant to be a selfless endeavor. And, you know, I'm only doing it for the party that is affected, or I'm only doing it for the cause. But in truth and in fact, human nature is such that a lot of us kind of hope that we can benefit somehow from the process, even if that benefit is that feel-good feeling. You know, there is that element of, this perhaps is somehow helping me in some way. And generally, we want to know that it's coming from a good place. Generally, you know, there are some recipients who might argue that even if you're doing it for the quote unquote wrong reasons, the fact that you're helping, I will take it. But we do understand that, especially for a young person, they might think, well, how can my giving of my time and effort also put me in good stead for my career and for my future development? And these are some of the ways that we can see that happening. So for one, you can garner valuable work experience, especially if it is that you volunteer in the field of your interests. So, you know, if for instance, you are looking to get work experience and internship opportunities aren't available, so you can probably get a stipend or get paid for your work, there are persons who might, quite frankly, just offer their services for free. No, there's a fine line between offering your services for free in a situation that some might argue is not necessarily benefiting a cause, so to speak. But in the event that you do something that is of beneficial to a group, particularly a disadvantaged group or a disadvantaged set of persons or situation, then definitely you can gain work experience through those causes, and that counts for something. I mean, I know especially in the medical field, for instance, it's quite common where you may have persons who have trained in medicine or are in medical training who might travel overseas and participate in health management initiatives or you know, wellness initiatives across the world or in their country, and you know, they are gaining relevant work experience but doing so for free. So definitely that is a benefit that you can see there. It also provides you with an opportunity to explore varied interests. So sure, you are in accounting, you've studied accounting, but maybe you enjoy photography, maybe you enjoy graphic designing, maybe you enjoy sewing, maybe you enjoy cooking, and you know, you want to explore those other things as well. So volunteering of your time is a good way to do that and potentially build your competence in those areas while still maintaining your core specialization. And of course, we know that the more varied, the wider the array of skill sets that you have, then the more attractive you can look to a potential employer. There are many employers who are not just keen on your ability to crunch numbers, but want to see, you know, what else you do outside of school, what else do you do beyond your core 9 to 5, you know, how rounded of an individual are you? And so volunteerism can allow you to build that bank of experiences. You can also expand your professional network. You would be surprised sometimes when you partake in certain initiatives who you could be rubbing shoulders with and you may not even know, particularly when it is that you're a part of professional, sorry, not professional, a part of designated service organizations like your Rotary and so on. You find that in many instances, persons who are very well connected sometimes participate in these ventures as well. And, you know, by virtue of lending your assistance, you could be meeting persons who could go on to be mentors, who could go on to provide you with a reference at some point, or just be there as a part of your professional network. So that certainly can be useful. Of course, you can develop crucial soft skills, you know, time management. Certainly, if you're giving off your time for free, especially if you're doing other things, then you do need to manage your time well. So time management, the ability to work with people, organizational skills, resource management skills. There are really a plethora of skills that you could develop in the process. And so, that is beneficial. And of course, just generally improving your marketability to be able to say that, you know, I'm affiliated with this service organization, or I have done these things to impact my community. It let's be honest, it makes you look good. It makes you look like a good human being. It makes you look like a good person. And of course, that can go a far way sometimes in opening doors and making you appear as a more marketable young professional. Particularly in instances where perhaps your paid work experience is limited, and you're able to better sell yourself by saying, well, you know, I may have just left school, I probably don't have a bag of experience under my belt, but I have done these things, I have used my time towards these causes. You know, it can certainly sell you in a good light. Now, where are some of the places that you can volunteer? It's difficult to say, you know, exactly where. I mean, the possibilities are endless, the opportunities are endless. You can create your own opportunities, or you can, you know, jump onto existing opportunities. So there is no precise list of you know, excellent places that you must do. The point is, if you're volunteering and you're doing it for a good cause and from a good place, then whatever little you can do makes a difference somehow. But just in case we want some pointers to start with, you can look in your immediate environs. What about your immediate community? What about within your school environment? What about within your church? What about within your workplace? Do those institutions have any programs that you could be a part of? Could you perhaps create something within that environment or spearhead something that could be of benefit to whether that community or a community external to it? You know, so you can always look within your immediate environs if it is that you're looking for ideas of things to do. You could also explore various charities and nonprofits, whether it be locally or internationally. So there are, you know, so many service organizations within Jamaica, across the world, your Red Crosses, your Food for the Poor's, you know, there are all of these opportunities out there through established entities that you can pursue if you so desire. And there are many corporate bodies that also have arms of the business that lend themselves to volunteering, or to having initiatives undertaken or managed by the company that you can seek to be a part of. And then you also have, you know, one-off special initiatives that may come up that you may hear about and say, you know what, this sounds like a good idea, I want to jump on. So very common ones that we see, especially in Jamaica, are like beach cleanups, donation drives. If anyone has followed student life very actively, especially in the pre-COVID days, you know that tag drive was a thing, or is a thing that is put on by the Students' Union, and persons will, you know, get their cans and go around. You have Teach the Youths, where they'd go and teach, you know, um, within the local communities surrounding the institution. So yeah, donation drives, charity runs or walks, there are options out there. So do not feel limited. And again, if you're not finding something that quite suits your desires out there, then go make up your own. Do your own thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Whatever you can do in your own small way, I guarantee you it will make a difference to the party that is on the receiving end. Now, very quickly, to talk about some trends in volunteering, we see micro volunteering being one, where there is this shift from doing long-term to short-term volunteering stints. So it's no longer about necessarily being a lifelong committed volunteer to a particular cause or a particular organization, but more of a, hey, you know what, I have a day to spare or 2 days to spare. I'm going to see how I can give off my time through with whatever time I have available. And that is of course impacted by the growing demands on our time. You know, we have so many things doing these days that sometimes you can't always take up an initiative for the long haul. And so there are more and more instances of persons just finding little pockets of ways that they can give off their time and doing that. And generally for those sort of volunteering initiatives, it is about just completing a particular task as opposed to taking on a particular role, because that level of long-term commitment is not there. So you want to build a house, all right, we'll just build a house today, and it's about this particular project, and we're getting this project done, and then that's the end of that, moving on to the next one. Now, of course, any entity or individual who is benefiting from such volunteers need to make sure that they plan properly to have enough volunteer assistance available right around the clock. There's also virtual volunteering, you know, with the impact of globalization and technological advancements and pandemics and whatnot, virtual volunteering is becoming a bigger and bigger thing. So you're able to lend your support to different causes without necessarily physically being there. You know, you can be a part of an initiative in Australia, sitting in your bedroom in Jamaica, and that's perfectly fine. And of course, we use social media or even dedicated volunteering platforms to facilitate these. There are many organizations out there that are solely set up for virtual volunteering initiatives, and they have their own website where they host the interactions that need to be had and so on. And you see that happening a lot with disaster relief efforts, with fundraising activities, with advocacy work, mentorship, provision of any kind of technical support or labor that you can give. So designing a flyer for someone or building a website for someone or for a cause, as it may be. So yeah, virtual volunteering is definitely a thing. Some other notable trends very quickly. There's a greater movement from project-based volunteerism to more like movement. So focusing on a bigger cause, a bigger purpose, tackling major social issues, climate change, pollution, racism, domestic abuse or domestic violence. You know, persons are more and more looking at aligning themselves with not just a one-off project, but with movements that they believe are close to their soul, so to speak, or have some strong relevance to them and to their own belief systems. Corporate volunteering, which really isn't a new thing, it's been around for quite some time, but it continues to grow as a trend. Volunteer training, where organizations are saying, well, you know, if somebody is going to come in, or a group of persons are going to come in and they're going to give up their time and effort, we want to make sure that they can do so efficiently. So we're going to actually dedicate resources to training them, even if it's just a one-day training or a half-day training, but ensuring that, you know, they are competent in whatever skill set we're trying to get from them, and that the time that they give can be used efficiently and effectively, because they're able to give us exactly what we need from them as volunteers. Of course, there's a generational shift. We know, you know, we're moving from the baby boomers and the Gen X to the Gen Zs and the millennials and the Gen Zs and the Gen Ys and whatnot. And of course, with that generational shift, you might find that perspectives on volunteerism change. So you may find that the younger folks might not see volunteerism to be as big a thing as, say, you know, the older adults. And so for the younger ones, you might have more of a conversation about what's in it for me. I mean, if I'm going to give up my time, how am I benefiting from this? And you know, those generational issues have to be kept in mind. And then volunteer specialization. So I'm not just going to go in an organization and do whatever is available. I am going to bring my specialist skill set and lend assistance through that. So if my skill set is in, or if my strength is in construction, then those are the kind of projects I will seek out. Or, you know, if I am in medicine, then I will choose to align myself with projects that I can actually develop my skill set. So persons are feeling more and more comfortable with looking at all the specialized skills that they have and seeing how best they can use that to make a change. Now, there was a little table I found quite interesting that speaks to some changes in volunteer culture, looking at past volunteers versus present volunteers. And I'll just, you know, run through that very quickly. So once upon a time, you know, volunteers used to be told what to do by organizations. Now it's more of a case where volunteers are saying, well, listen, this is what I want to do. Once upon a time, persons would just take whatever is available. Now persons are saying, you know, I want to do things that align with my personal goals or with my needs or with my interests, so that at the very least I can enjoy while I'm giving off my time. Now we see that persons, volunteers, are being asked to do pretty much the same level of work that paid professionals are doing. Once upon a time, there would be a very clear distinction between a person who might be paid to do something and a volunteer. Now you might see them basically being treated as equals, because organizations realize that, you know, our volunteers are valuable, and even if we're not paying them, then we do need to treat them with a certain amount of respect and not necessarily just make them feel as though they are separate and apart from whatever is going on within the organization. Volunteers today are using their entrepreneurial and creative skills a whole lot more to bring value to the causes that they align themselves with. And many of them are not afraid to say, well, you know, or at least hint that there's some amount of self-interest involved with an initiative. It's not that much of a hidden taboo kind of thing where, oh, I'm just doing this because I am the kindest person on earth. And, you know, we are becoming more aware of the fact that sometimes persons do take on ventures because it may do some sort of good for them, but, you know, we still appreciate that good is being done anyway. So yeah, just a few changes that we have seen with the passage of time. So as I wrap up, I just wanted to share a few quotes with you linked to volunteerism that I found particularly, you know, insightful. One, volunteering is at the very core of a human being. No one has made it through life without someone else's help. And this is so true. None of we know they were with it because of ourselves alone. You know, in some way, shape, or form, we would have been assisted somehow. And that is what has brought us to where we are today. And so never be afraid to help someone else, because we all need someone, we all need people. And in the same breath, people need us, especially for those of us who are in a position to give of our time and you know, give of ourselves. Even if you just change one life, you've changed the world forever. Imagine if all I would do something would just change somebody in some small way, you know, make someone's life better somehow. If currently we have 122 people in the room, if all of us did that, you know, and then if all of those 122 lives that we touched also went on and paid it forward and did that, and then that continued. I mean, I'm supposed to be an accounting lecturer, but that math's the bigger than me, because the sort of multiplier effect that you would see there would be amazing. So don't be afraid to change one life. You never know how that one life you change might change another and change another, and you know, it goes on. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. You know, sometimes you really don't understand you don't understand your motivations, your purpose, until you give and give freely without the commitments of you know, feeling like it must be structured and paid and formal. Sometimes just give, and you would be surprised how much you learn about yourself, how much you learn about others, how much you learn about life in the process. I can safely say that had it not been through the fact that I used to volunteer throughout high school to, you know, tutor my peers, and even throughout university, tutor there, I probably wouldn't have really fancied myself as someone to go in academia. I never thought I would, but I actually used to do my little teaching stints and help here and there, and help somebody with little homework and go up on the board and do whatever. And you might say, you know, it's not volunteerism in the strict sense of the word, but I would have done those little things, and upon time I'd sit and reflect and I realize, all right, you know, maybe I could do this teaching thing. So you'd be surprised how much you find out about yourself when you give and give freely. So definitely you want to give that a shot. And the last one that I found to perhaps be the most powerful of the bunch: volunteers don't get paid, not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. Can't put no price on the level of difference that you can make just by giving of your time. That is why you don't get money for it. Not because you're not worth, but simply because what you do is so immeasurable and so priceless. So go forth, give of your time, give of your energies. If you have, you know, if you've generally done so, continue to do so. The world needs more of it. And if you've never really tackled something of that sort, if you've never really gone out and taken on an initiative of that, give it a try. You know, you never know how much you can learn about yourself in the process, but more importantly, you never know the extent to which you can touch another life. So thank you for your time.